Welcome back to my channel. Today, I want you to get comfortable, pour yourself a warm cup of coffee, and just listen. Life sometimes gives us everything we asked for, but we end up feeling more lost than ever. This is a story about the life I lived, the walls I built, and how I finally found the courage to breathe again. Let's begin. People thought my life was perfect. They saw the expensive dresses, the quiet black cars, the golden lights inside our large house. They saw my husband smile at important people. They saw diamonds around my neck. But nobody saw me crying alone at night. Nobody heard the silence inside my heart. The rain was falling softly outside my bedroom window that night. I sat near the lamp with a cup of cold tea in my hands. The room was beautiful, too beautiful. Everything inside the room looked expansive, but none of it felt warm. I remembered touching the silk blanket slowly. It felt soft, but my heart still felt tired. My husband was not home again. He was always busy, business dinners, important meetings, phone calls late at night. At first, I tried to understand him. I told myself this was normal. Rich people lived like this. Successful men were busy. That was what everyone said. I believed it for many years. Until one day I looked at myself in the mirror and I realized I looked lonely all the time. I used to smile easily before marriage. I used to laugh loudly with my friends. I used to eat street food during rainy evenings. I used to sit inside small coffee shops with warm music playing softly back. Then I had very little money, but I slept peacefully. Now I had everything, and still I could not breathe properly. Sometimes the large house often felt too quiet. Every morning the maids cleaned the rooms carefully. The chef prepared beautiful breakfast plates. Fresh fruit, warm bread, coffee with milk foam. Everything looked perfect, but I usually ate alone. The chair across from me stayed empty most mornings. I stopped waiting after some time. I learned how to drink coffee alone quietly. I learned how to smile at workers politely. I learned how to stay silent during expensive parties. People always asked me the same question, "You are so lucky." I smiled every time. But inside my chest, something hurt quietly. One rainy afternoon, I decided to leave the house for a while. I wore simple clothes so nobody would recognize me. The driver asked where I wanted to go. I looked outside the car window slowly, then I said the name of an old coffee shop near my old university. I had not visited that place for years. The city looked different now. New buildings, bright signs, busy streets. But the coffee shop still looked the same. The small yellow lights were still warm. The wooden tables were still old and peaceful. Soft music was playing quietly. Inside, the smell of coffee touched my heart gently. For the first time in months, I felt calm. I sat near the window and watched the rain outside. Students were laughing together. A young couple shared one cake slowly. An old man read a newspaper quietly. Everything looked simple and strangely beautiful. Then someone called my name softly. I turned around slowly. It was Daniel, my old classmate. I almost did not recognize him at first. He looked older now, but his eyes still looked kind. He smiled warmly when he saw me. "It has been a long time," I smiled softly. "Yes." He sat across from me carefully, and suddenly the empty chair in front of me no longer felt cold. We talked slowly while rain touched the windows. He asked about my life. I told him simple answers. Beautiful house, busy husband, comfortable life. I said all the correct things. But somehow he kept looking at me quietly, as if he could see something deeper. Then he asked softly, "Are you happy?" The question stayed inside the air between us. I could not answer immediately, because nobody asked me that question anymore, not even myself. I looked down at my coffee cup. The warm smoke moved slowly into the air, and suddenly my eyes started burning. I smiled quickly to hide it. I do not know. That was the truth. Daniel did not say anything after that. He simply sat with me quietly. And somehow that silence felt comforting, not painful. When I returned home that night, the large house felt colder than usual. The lights were bright, the floors were shining, everything looked perfect, but my chest felt heavy again. My husband returned home near midnight. He smelled like expensive perfume and cold city air. He kissed my forehead quickly. Then he walked directly to his office room. No conversation, no eye contact, no warmth. I stood there quietly for a long time, listening to the sound of the closing door. I wondered when we became strangers. The next few weeks passed slowly, but something inside me had changed. I started leaving the house more often. Sometimes I walked alone in the park. Sometimes I visited the coffee shop again. And sometimes I simply sat inside bookstores for hours. I began noticing small, beautiful things again: the sound of rain on glass, the smell of old books, the soft orange light during sunset. I realized my heart was still alive. It was only lonely Daniel and I met many times after that, always simple meetings. Coffee, walking, quiet conversations. He never asked for anything from me, he simply listened. And nobody had listened to me for years. One evening, we sat near the river while the sky turned orange slowly. The wind felt cool, the city lights reflected softly on the water. Daniel looked at the sunset quietly, then he asked, "Do you ever feel trapped?" I laughed softly, but it sounded sad all the time. He looked at me carefully. "You can leave if you want." His words scared me because part of me wanted exactly that, but another part of me felt afraid. Afraid of judgment, afraid of loneliness, afraid of losing the life everyone admired. That night, I could not sleep. I sat near the bedroom lamp until morning. My husband slept beside me peacefully, but we felt miles apart. I remembered our early days together. Back then, he was different. He worked hard, but he still laughed with me. We ate noodles together late at night. We watched movies on small sofas. He used to hold my hand while crossing the street. I do not know when money changed everything. Maybe success slowly built invisible walls around him. Maybe we both became tired. Maybe love disappears quietly, sometimes weeks later. My husband invited important guests to the house. Another expensive dinner party. Women wore sparkling dresses. Men talked loudly about business. Everyone smiled carefully. I stood beside my husband like decoration, beautiful, silent, perfect. One woman touched my arm gently and whispered, "You are living every woman's dream." I smiled politely, but inside I wanted to cry. That night, after the guests left, I stood alone on the balcony. Rain clouds moved slowly above the city. My husband walked outside with tired eyes. "You were quiet tonight." I looked at him calmly. "I'm always quiet." He seemed surprised by my answer. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I asked softly, "Are you happy?" He looked away immediately, and suddenly, I realized something painful. He was lonely too. We had built a beautiful prison together. Days continued passing slowly after that, but silence between us became heavier. Sometimes we ate dinner together without speaking. Sometimes he stayed inside his office room until morning. Sometimes I stared at the ceiling for hours, unable to sleep. Then one afternoon, I visited my old university alone. The classrooms smelled the same old paper dust coffee. Memories touched my chest softly. I sat quietly inside an empty classroom near the window. Rain fell gently outside, and suddenly I remembered the girl I used to be. She had simple dreams, a peaceful home, warm love, quiet happiness. Nothing expensive, nothing grand, just warmth. Tears slowly filled my eyes. I realized I missed myself. Not my old life, myself. That evening, Daniel found me sitting alone outside the campus library. "You look sad today." I smiled weakly. "I think I lost myself somewhere." He sat beside me quietly. Then he said something I never forgot. "Maybe you are finally trying to find yourself again." His words stayed inside my heart for days. That night, I looked around my large bedroom carefully. The expensive paintings, the shining floor, the designer furniture, none of it knew me. None of it comforted me. I suddenly understood something important. Luxury cannot hug loneliness away. A week later, my husband surprised me. He canceled his meetings and invited me to dinner. We sat inside a quiet restaurant with candlelight and soft music. At first, conversation felt awkward, like two strangers trying to remember each other. Then slowly, he began talking honestly about stress, pressure, fear, exhaustion. He admitted he felt empty too. He admitted he no longer recognized himself either. I listened quietly. For the first time in years, we spoke honestly, not perfectly, but honestly. When we returned home, he asked softly, "Are we still able to fix this?" I looked at him for a long time. I did not know the answer, but for the first time, I wanted to try. The following months were slow and strange. Healing never happens quickly. Sometimes we argued, sometimes silence returned, but sometimes small warmth appeared again. He started eating breakfast with me twice a week. We began taking evening walks together. Sometimes we sat quietly, without phones, without business talk, without pretending. One rainy night, the electricity suddenly went out inside the house. The servants panicked. But strangely, I laughed softly. We sat together, near candlelight, like ordinary people. Outside, rain touched the windows gently. My husband smiled for the first time in a long while. "You look happier like this." I looked around the dark room and realized he was right. Without bright lights, without luxury, without performance, we finally looked human again. Months later, I visited the coffee shop one last time. Daniel was already sitting near the window. Soft music filled the room quietly. I thanked him sincerely for listening to me. He smiled warmly. Sometimes people only need someone who truly sees them. I looked outside at the rainy streets, then I smiled softly. I think I am finally learning how to breathe again. He looked happy hearing that. When we said goodbye that evening, there was no dramatic moment, no romance, no sadness, only peace. Some people enter our lives not to stay forever, but to wake sleeping parts of our hearts. Daniel did that for me, and I will always be grateful. Life inside the large house slowly changed after that, not perfectly, but honestly. I started decorating rooms with simple things I loved: books, plants, warm lamps, soft music. The house slowly began feeling alive. Sometimes my husband still became busy. Sometimes loneliness still visited me quietly. But now I spoke honestly instead of hiding my pain, and he tried listening instead of escaping into work. One evening we watched rain together. From the balcony, the city lights looked soft below us. My husband held my hand gently. A simple touch, but it felt warm. "I am sorry." His voice sounded quiet. I leaned my head against his shoulder. "Slowly, so am I." At that moment, I realized marriage is not saved by money or beauty or status. It survives through honesty, attention, warmth, and small daily moments. Years ago, I thought becoming the wife of a rich man would complete my life, but now I understand something different. Peace matters more than luxury. Connection matters more than perfection. And sometimes the loneliest people live inside the most beautiful houses. Tonight, rain is falling softly outside my window again, but this time I do not feel empty. A warm lamp glows beside me, soft music plays quietly, and downstairs my husband is making tea for both of us. The house still looks beautiful, but finally it also feels warm. Vocabulary section. Lonely means feeling alone and sad. Luxury means expensive, comfortable things. Pressure means stress from responsibilities. Warmth means loving and comforting feeling. Peaceful means calm and quiet. Exhaustion means extreme tiredness. Comfort means a feeling of relaxation and safety. Honesty means telling the truth sincerely. Healing means becoming emotionally better. Admired means respected or envied by others. Thank you for staying with me until the end. I hope this story brought you a little bit of peace tonight. Remember, your feelings are valid and it is never too late to find your way back to yourself. You are not alone in your journey. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, take care of yourself and sleep well.